and welcome to video 4, summer layout using lots of stitching. You wait and see. So I'm using this picture of me, lots of bright coloured small pieces that I'll be using later on, and this absolutely gorgeous Artimo colour conspiracy paper. I'm just going to be cutting off the signature strip here along the bottom. I had to push the cat out of the way there because she was going to stand on the paper and damage it. So I'm going to be using a lot of this paper. I absolutely love how bold and bright it is. So I start off by putting the paper along two edges of my 12 by 12 paper. So I just have a blank white cardstock, and then I'm going to pop this along here. And just thinking about how much more I'm going to use. So I'm actually going to be using quite a large amount of this, thinking about putting this down in the corner, and I quite like the way that looks. Just making sure the lines line up perfectly, because what I've decided to do is to draw each one of these lines and then go off camera and stitch them. So you start drawing my lines here so I know where the stitching goes, and you don't need to sit and watch me draw these lines, you get the picture. So I take this and I go off and I sew it. I try to start with my sewing machine, but the sewing machine won't loop the thread properly because I am actually using thick 3 strands of cross stitch thread. So I have now stitched all of that. Now, funnily enough, I didn't have a dark blue, so I took one of the lighter blue threads that I had and actually dyed it with some Adirondack alcohol ink to make a darker blue, so that I could match them, trying to use some of my products rather than buying something that'll just stay in my kit. So I'm trying to use up some products. Candy is very, very attentive today and wants me to be playing, but I'm quite happy to be doing this page, so she's gone off now to sit in her basket. As I stuck those 2 pieces of paper down, I'm going to be using this Bramble Fox Perspectives title and a couple of little embellishments here, and just trying to think, do I like that Dare to Dream? And then I think actually it's a bit dark, and I quite like Imperfection is Lovely is what this little piece says, and then I have that added embellishment that says Life is Beautiful. So this is basically the layout as it's going to look at the end. I am adding some eyelets here. I have a pack of eyelets, tiny little things, they're quite fiddly. The one pack had lots of different colours that matched my paper, and then I found some little light blue ones that went as well. So I'm going to be using these just to add a little bit of added interest around my stitched lines. So I'm just trying to find and work out how many I want before I punch some holes. So I'm using here my Japanese screw punch. Now, because these tiny holes, I find the Japanese screw punch, even though the end is perfect, it's just so hard to do. You saw my daughter pop up in the corner there. You usually see the cat, but my daughter came to have a look what I was doing and then got freaked out because she knew that I was filming. So I'm trying to use the Japanese screw punch, but then decide that actually I will just use a pokey tool because their holes weren't getting made properly, and it was just quite difficult putting the pieces through because these eyelets are incredibly small. So as with all eyelets, you pop them in the holes and then you turn your page over. So I have to move all these things in order to punch them down on the back. So I get my little tool there and give them a little knock. I have a habit of 2 little knocks, never do it in one, even though most times the second hammering doesn't do anything. It's just my little habit. Occasionally I'll actually use the hammer to nail them down on their own. My pad is quite a soft mat, so you can use the hammer on it without damaging it, and also use the hammer on the paper without making too much of an issue. There's a little bit of give, that's I guess what I want to say, in the mat that I use underneath my work. So here, almost finished, well, halfway through with those. Just keep adding a few more, and just to give it just a little bit more of a pop and a little bit more of interest along those lines. But I am truly in love with this page. I really love all of the bright colours and the effect of this paper. So I'm so glad I got this paper. We often buy papers like this and then aren't quite sure how to use them, or end up using a lot of the bright ones like this behind photographs just with a little bit poking through, and I really just felt like being bold and brave today with this page. So now I've got those done, I'm thinking about how wide I'd like this little strip here and the photograph, tucking those all in, and how I like them to line up. So here I've overlaid them, I moved them again, and the title didn't seem to pop too much, so I thought I'd back it with a little bit of paper, which works really nicely just to sort of give the title a bit of a pop there. Almost forgot to take the backing off. So I'm gluing this down. I just cut the hearts out individually to go around or to go on top of the perspective. But you'll see after I've stuck these on, I just have a little bit of a look and just give a quick trim to a couple of places where it sort of didn't sit properly. And then I decided to glue this, which was rather silly because I haven't glued anything else down yet. So I put that off to the side to do in a moment. I noticed there's a couple of little darker marks. I obviously didn't cut that straight enough, and also on my photograph. So I've just trimmed that up a little bit just so it's clearer. Photograph I want to put on some foam pad here. I often like putting the photograph higher up than the rest of the page just to give it some dimension and make the photograph a more focal point. Nearly had an accident there, or did have an accident by dropping it, but thankfully saved that. It didn't damage my paper. So I'm popping my picture down and gluing these ones in place. And yes, I poke that out to the left, and I've actually squared that off on the right hand side. Now I'm just thinking about popping in my other totals and where I would like the title. And so I put a little foam pad on the glasses that say summer, and then part of it will be stuck on my picture or over my picture. And I do love this bright Bramble Fox perspective. It at first when I got it, I wasn't sure I would use it. I don't often do really bright pages like this that would generally warrant a bright title, but I think this page just screams out for it. Now the idea with between the lines is to put some wording. Now I really should have thought about this before I actually started pulling them all off the sheet, but basically all I wanted to say about this page was after all these years of motherhood, a new life adventure embarks now. So the summer was about the kids going off to university, and a new life for me and my husband with a little bit more freedom. And so I'm looking through here to try to work out what exactly I want to say. I had the word year but needed an S on the end, which is so often the case, so I changed that. And then I found a mother, and I ended up having to take good and write an H and put motherhood. which I quite like. I quite like the quirkiness of it, really. Putting in a different letter. So I'm just going through the pack here trying to work it out. And actually I used the word own and changed it to the word now for the last word that I put on this page. And I haven't added any other sort of journaling, any hidden journaling anywhere. This is just a bright new future for everybody, and that's really what I wanted to say with this layout. And the picture is one of those funny Snapchat filters. I think I was stood in my living room taking this over the summer, and the blue background fades out behind your photograph, and I just quite liked the look of it, and the blue went brilliantly with these pages, with these lines on this page. So when I'm finishing off this, at the end of my video, I have a photograph of my cat that I've put at the very end of this video, because as I was finishing off and putting my cat, which I put at the bottom of all my videos, she walked from the left hand side right the way across my page off to the right hand side, and I was just finishing off, so I stood up. And the minute I stood up, she went and sat on my chair. So when I got up to take the still shots of the page at the end of the process, I turned around and there she was, sat on my chair, looking up at me, just as if butter wouldn't melt. Here's me making the now out of own, and just sticking that in place. So that's my last word there. I have made some butterflies, and in the comments there is a link to one of my friends' pages. So I've made a orange and yellow one, as you can see. I do quickly go through the process of how to fold these. They're really easy when you get the hang of it, although the paper's a little bit thick, and I find that I don't always get the quite square corners that I want. So you will see me after I've started to make this, you will see me give me a little snip, there I go, just to sort of clean up the edges because they weren't quite flat. But as I say, I will add in the links to Vic's page so that you can follow her tutorial. She leaves the backs folded, but I actually cut them because I wanted them flatter on my page, and I found the paper that I was using was way too thick to do anything else with. Just arranging these here, absolutely love them. Put the green one off to the side because I think I might not use that one. I think I like just the 3 there, but at the end of the video I do decide that I am going to use that 4th one, so I do like the green one with the pattern that's on it. So I decided to put it up in the corner there. And as usual, the very last thing I do on all of my pages is to add my cat. And as I say again, you will see Candy jump in and jump across my page, as she always does, because she likes being the centre of attention. There we go. And just stick that in place, and then you will see some close-ups of the images. So thank you very much for watching. And I do a close-up of some of the writing and the stitching for you, and as I say, the picture of Candy on my chair. Thank you, bye bye.